Most of you are expecting a Michigan mailbag on Thursday, but we are doing an entirely different thing. We're bringing in someone that I'll introduce you to him because I know you've never heard of him before. To help us look back and look forward, we're bringing in Connor Stalions on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And bringing on a stranger, is a stranger to me at least. First off, Connor, it's good to finally meet you, man. I mean, I've heard a lot about you.
Isaiah.
I mean, I've read about you. They asked me to be in some Netflix thing a couple years ago. I didn't know why. I mean, I thought I was there to talk about this pizza I made, but that's not how that went. Before we get into it, thanks to all of our everydayers. Thanks for checking us out every day. Thank you for making us your first listen. We do appreciate that as well. Connor and I are going to start off. This is going to be a weekly segment. We're going to start off initially getting into Bryce Underwood. Then we're going to move into the good and the bad from last week. And then after that, we were going to move into Oklahoma. So for the first time, I'm not relaying what Bryce Underwood is. I've relied heavily on what you've allowed me to say in terms of what your evaluation had been. How did what he did on Saturday against New Mexico match up compared to your expectations, having been his offensive coordinator at Belleville, having been around him?
Pretty spot on. I mean, he's very comfortable in the pocket. You could see that he obviously, he looked like he was not a freshman playing quarterback. And he definitely, I think one thing that's overlooked about him just from the public's eye is how smart he is, how much he knows the game. And you could see it. I mean, he wasn't reacting to anything. He was anticipating. He was confident in his reads. He was in his progressions. Very smooth in the pocket. Saw that he got the ball out in 2.2 seconds per play. He's confident. That's never going to be a problem. Even in this week on a very tough road environment, I wouldn't be too worried about him. He's very poised. He is probably the most prepared player I've ever been around, maybe with the exception of Ernest Hausman, who is a film junkie. But yeah, Bryce is the type of guy who he's there till 10 p.m. every day. He's going to go into the game more prepared than anyone on that field. And I think that's what you saw for a week one game as a true freshman starter, when week one games are pretty difficult to prepare for because it's the first game of the year.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you told me back when you first saw him, I remember you called me, and I've said this before, but
I called you.
Yeah, you called this person that I know. This is the first time we met. And they relayed this to me, and I pass it on as if it was my own intel.
Yep.
No, I
remember this.
Yeah. So you were like, and I know people don't believe, they don't believe it until they see it, and they're starting to get to see this. But you were like, he's already, from a physical standpoint and intuitively, where JJ McCarthy was when I left. Now, you left Michigan in October 2023, right before the Michigan State game. So do you feel like that's kind of what we're seeing already, even in just 1 week? Even, yes, New Mexico caveat. You feel like okay, that's still my assessment. That's still what people can expect, that he's not going to be just this guy that, like you just said, he's going to be ready when he's under the lights at Norman. Yep. That's still your assessment then?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you know someone, JJ included, like in the NFL now, I'm very confident that he'll do very well in Minnesota. But when there's a personal that a personal relationship there. When you're not the person, you're a little nervous, like, oh man, I hope he really meets these expectations. But what you see, what you saw on Saturday, and what you'll probably see for the rest of the year, is it really is that where I felt going in that, I mean, there's a reason he's was the number one recruit in the country, and I did feel that they're different quarterbacks, so I think JJ is a little more of a extending plays, and you can have a little bit of QB design run. I don't think, Bryce does extend plays, and he is a threat with his athleticism, but I think he wants to be in the pocket a little more than JJ does. But from a preparedness standpoint, I do think that Bryce right now is kind of where JJ was, as I'd say, going into his sophomore year. From a talent level, I mean, they're both up there, right? I don't want to speak too soon, but I'd be shocked if Bryce wasn't also a top 10 pick in a few years. So I hate to compare them, because they're both unique in their own, they're different, but they do share a lot in common. They're both, two of the nicest people you'll ever meet, great leaders. Everyone rallies around them. And, that didn't take long for JJ. I know he was battling with Cade, and I know Bryce obviously earned the job right away. But other than that, they're both great leaders. Bryce is, again, I'll compare him to Ernest Hausman in how dedicated and how much he truly loves football. It's an all-day thing for him. There's really not too much of a life outside of football. I think that's what makes him the most unique. Like in high school, I'll never forget that first playoff game against Ann Arbor Pioneer. I mean, the first day I met him, we were there from 10 a.m. to midnight. And I mean, that's rare for a college athlete, let alone a kid preparing for a game that he probably knows he's gonna dominate. So, I mean, him and JJ, they have their similarities. They have their differences, both schematically and off the field a little bit, but overall they're very similar. When you just take a step back and you look at the history of Michigan quarterbacks, they're very similar. I hate to compare him to JJ and with everything JJ accomplished, obviously. But
right. And it's not one of those things where we're comparing to like denigrate. It's a comparison for just understanding.
You're talking about probably two top 10 draft picks. So, kind of like, I mean, Oklahoma could compare the history of their quarterbacks, right? And Baker, Kyler, Jalen, like it's kind of the same thing where they're different, but I mean, the expectation, and I do feel confident that he will meet that expectation of being a top 10 pick.
We got about 60 seconds before we move on, but I want to know, is there any, I always see a lot of colleagues of mine and national people as well say he's going to make the freshman mistakes. He's going to have all those ups and downs. I want to know, just in 60 seconds, like, you feel like that's a thing for him?
And then it's like, define a freshman mistake. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. If you didn't, you'd score on every play, right? So, I wouldn't say he's going to have freshman mistakes. He'll make mistakes, just like JJ did. Every quarterback makes mistakes. I don't think that you're going to see. I don't think he's going to look like a freshman. I think the way he navigates the pocket, his understanding of the game, and obviously his talent, you combine all of that, I think the fan base and the analysts and all the networks can get that out of their mind. I mean, he is unique. He's going to play like he's a sophomore already.
Well, I can't wait to see what he does in Norman, Oklahoma, but we got more than just Bryce Underwood to talk about. We are going to continue on with Connor Stalions here in just a moment. But before we do, and of course I have to navigate my own phone here. Locked On Wolverines fans, you have to know that you don't have to be paying full price for gas. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code football and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year from just buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code football for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to the upside.com website for terms and conditions. We're going to continue on here momentarily, but this is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep moving the game forward, much like Bryce Underwood did in that 2-minute drill, whether it was converting a 3rd and 14 or his amazing play, the touchdown that he threw to Marlon Klein. You could see that the ingenuity, the poise, all of that, and that's exactly what Mazda brings to you. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, we're continuing on here with a guy I just met, first time, here on video. We've never spoken before. I didn't know anything that was going on in October, November, December 2023. I was just throwing darts at a wall. It was a wild time. I just wish you had someone to talk to during that, Connor, and I'm just glad that now you do for at least a half hour. All right. The game was obviously 34-17. When I was walking to the post-game press conference, I heard Michigan fans buzzing, mostly because of Bryce. I was actually kind of surprised that 17-point win over New Mexico wasn't looked down as much. It seems like more the national media is kind of more torn, but the locals are excited about it. Well, outside of
score watchers.
Yes, definitely that. They just see 17 points over. It's the Michigan State people, right, trying to make themselves feel better about their 17-point win over Western. And the same ones that are like Aiden Childs is probably better than Bryce. Okay. But what were your just kind of general overarching takeaways, whether it was good, whether it was bad? Let's just get into what you saw on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, starting with the negatives, obviously a big reason why the score is what it was a little bit of special teams mistakes. Gave them good field position on that. They scored 10 consecutive points, right? They drove down the field, got the turnover. But yeah, I think the defense, obviously up front, they're going to be the same old dominant front seven. And then the back end, obviously have a few things to clean up. I would also bet a lot of money that Wink kept things pretty bland week one, knowing the upcoming game here.
Wait, and you can do that? They can, because that makes
so
it sound like
so I've been told. I wouldn't know though, but Wink, I'm sure is saving a lot for this week, just the same way I'm sure Venables is saving a lot too. But we'll get into that. I think the matchup benefits Wink more to save some stuff for this week, but they can obviously clean some stuff up on the back end. I think the depth at DB is not as proven as the depth up front. Obviously the defensive line depth is unreal again. And then offensively, I mean, I think it was good to see Justice Haynes having a coming out party game one. And because we've all seen what Jordan Marshall can do. So having both of them back there, I think Michigan's best personnel is 21 personnel, 2 backs, 1 tight end. They can align in anything out of it. But I think offense overall, same kind of thing. I think you saw enough to see like, okay, I think Chip did a really good job, but also saved quite a bit, I'd imagine. And then the chemistry, between Bryce, the backs, obviously there's always stuff to clean up, especially week one, but nothing too concerning, moving forward from a standpoint of, I think this is going to be a problem all year. So overall, I'd say it was really good. Obviously, as we talked about Bryce, I expected to see what we saw, but and everyone that knows him did. But good to see him get that game out of the way and move on from all the, how's the true freshman going to play? So I'd say overall, give it a B-.
All right, that's fair. I think that's probably about what I'd give as well. Jim Harbaugh used to always say teams make their biggest improvement from weeks 1 to week 2. Obviously, yep. Oklahoma can also have that, but like you said, there doesn't seem to be anything particularly glaring, but how offensively, because that's kind of where we're more concerned in the moment. Like I know you're more of a defensive minded guy in general, but at the same time, how much more confident do you feel now, having at least seen what you saw, given what we saw pretty much all of last year, that, hey, if they get into the weeds in Norman, they can get themselves potentially out of it in maybe ways that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, you mentioned the 2-minute drive, right? We're not used to seeing that over the last year. And again, I mean, there was a 2-minute drive that first game when I was coaching in the playoffs at Belleville, where we had the ball with, 40 seconds left maybe in the first half. We were up. I mean, it was like 63-0 or whatever it was. It was bad. And head coach gets on the headset and says, "Hey, practice 2-minute right now. We're going to need it throughout the playoffs." I said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "All right." First concept, 85-yard touchdown. Like, okay, well, there's a 2-minute drive for you. But obviously you see him actually operate a 2-minute drive, which was great to see in the first half there. And not just that drive, but everyone saw how quick the ball, not just the time between the snap and him releasing. I'm talking just his throwing motion, getting the ball out quick. He's obviously got zip on the ball. And last year, teams would go one high, rotate the safety down, add a number in the box, and basically say, "I dare you to beat us in the passing game," right? And that's what the games sometimes turned into on these third and medium, third and long games. Can they convert? And now teams can't really do that, right? They have to. Just watching Bryce, I think any logical defensive coordinator, defensive mind, or any fan of another team would say, "Oh yeah, you gotta respect that. You gotta honor it, and you can't just sell out on the run." And obviously, then there's the complementary football with just Bryce and Coach Moore alone, because Sharon loves to pound the rock, between the tackles, and so it really puts defenses in a true dilemma where, in theory, it's, well, do you want to give up yards via the pass or give up yards via the run? Either way, it's either a slow death or a quick death. So, I think that's obviously what Bryce brings. And when you see the 2-minute drive that he operated, and you see how he operated in the passing game, it adds that dynamic to the offense that has been missing. And you saw it in New Mexico. You're going to see it moving forward. That's going to be a threat that has to be honored.
All right, we've got plenty more to get to with Connor. We got to get to this Oklahoma game. He's got some insight that he wants to give you with that, and I'll let him just roll with it basically. So we'll get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, it is almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it matters the most. So let's break it down. Number one, the Gunners for Michigan. I'm just kidding. It's Bryce Underwood. It's obvious. Delivered in a big way. I've already kind of gone into the 3rd and 14. I went into the other one, but how about that touch pass that he had to Marlon Klein on the 3rd down? I mean, that was a type of play that we just have not seen in Ann Arbor in a long time. Pressure's on. He's deep in his own territory. And he still comes through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week to week, you know that, and obviously with Bryce Underwood, we've only seen 1 week, but you know it's not a fluke because you've been watching and listening to this show. So just like how Bryce Underwood delivered for Michigan, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, Connor, you've got some film that you've kind of taken a look at. I want you to get to what you want to get to here, and I assume, much like I started with the ad read there, that we're going to kind of get into the Gunners. Who's that second rotation of the Gunners and how that's going to work again? Yeah, I mean that's the most important thing. Backup long snapper, I think that's another key concern going into Norman. Which, I mean, I don't even think you're going to be in Norman. I've heard that you're going to Columbus this week just to check out what's,
Potentially. I'm gonna scout the Grambling band.
Yeah, exactly. So watch out, event staff in the Horseshoe. But to kind of break some things down here. What should we be looking for here this upcoming week?
So I'm going to focus on I'll start big picture. I think as we Michigan folks know, Michigan's defense is rarely going to allow a game to turn into a track meet, right? Michigan's defense is very stout up front. There's going to be a lot of disguised pre-snap coverages and pressures that Wink will have for this week that I'd imagine Mateer hasn't seen in a game, right? I always say I think Bryce and JJ benefit more from Michigan's defense in camp than they do in actual games against other teams because the scheme it's an NFL system, and you're going to see that. I feel confident they'll clean up the mistakes, and I'm not saying Oklahoma's not going to score, but I if I'm a betting man, I would take the under, right? And I think this game's going to come down to the Oklahoma defense, how they match up against Michigan's offense. A couple things there. Oklahoma's defense, their strengths, first of all, Venables, very, very good defensive coordinator, great track record. I think they're really good in open space, really, really good on 3rd down, right? But it's kind of like that identity clash between Michigan and Ohio State. Which team's going to win? The team that just pounds the rock more, or the team that throws the rock more? And I think the SEC, most teams are used to facing teams that are just throwing the ball around left and right. And obviously, we know that's not what you're going to see. We have that ability with Bryce and with the passing game, but the identity is still what the identity is. And I do think that Michigan's not a team that's going to allow you to get them in 3rd and long, obvious passing situations too much. So I'm most interested to see the non-obvious passing down, just 1st and 10, 2nd and medium, how Oklahoma plays it, because they're really good in open space. They're really good in the back end, and they're good pass rushing, but how much does that really help outside of 3rd down against Michigan? Not to say Michigan's not going to pass the ball, and we've talked about that, where, there's Michigan's not afraid to sling it around on first and second down. But when you have to honor the run, which is most downs against Michigan, what are they going to do? And I think that's where some of the negatives from their game against Illinois State come in. I think I got a couple clips here. So this is I believe this is a split zone. Yeah, so Illinois State's just running split zone. And check this out. So they're 11 personnel. Motion the receiver. You see Oklahoma's in zone. They don't travel with it. And I'm not as focused on the scheme on this one as I am just block destruction in general. Again, this is against Illinois State. If you look at the linebackers here, respectfully, it looks like they're kind of ducking the smoke. And that's not going to work against Michigan, right? You see this backer takes himself, he falls back with the tight end, and then, which he's probably correct there in the run fit, but then when he takes on this block, he doesn't really address the blocker, right? He gets off him, but the ball carrier's in the other gap. It just kind of looks like they're not as physical as what Michigan's used to in the Big Ten. I mean, this one right here, I mean, he should easily make this play. And yeah, so there's some question marks there. I'll go back to another play earlier in the game. 3rd and 13, I believe. Now I'm going to focus a little bit on the scheme. They rely on exotics. So this is like an overload front, and there's a little stunt here in the run game. But this right here, again, just even over here, the corner getting off blocks. At the end of the day, and I'm not going to get into every single play from their game, and disclaimer, I only watched their game this last week, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to rely on exotic scheme to stop Michigan's run. They're going to have to just own their gap. When it comes down to it, they're going to have to own their gap, get off blocks, be physical. And I think we can all agree, all us Michigan folks, that this would be a touchdown if this is Justice Haynes right there. I mean, he'd be gone. Right?
At worst, a 60-ish yard gain, like what we saw.
Correct. And there's other plays where, again, without getting too much into the scheme, where they even on 1st and 10, they rely on a lot of defensive line movement, where they're slanting, they're doing pirate stunts, they're blitzing guys and moving the line. And it's kind of like a high risk, high reward where, okay, sure, you might be able to get a TFL once in a while, but man, when you don't and they break through, Justice or Jordan breaks through, you're kind of screwed. And that's why I go back to Oklahoma's very, very good on passing down situations. I'm not saying they're bad in the run game, but there's a difference between Illinois State's run game, SEC's run game, and Michigan's run game, where that's their true identity. And that leads me to this clip. I have a question. I'm most interested in how they match personnel for personnel. So I don't even need to show you the play on this. I'm just 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. So this YY set right here, they end up motioning this receiver over. But either way, Oklahoma has 4 down linemen. They're in a 4-3-4. I guess there's different terms for that, Buffalo personnel, base personnel. But they're sometimes in nickel personnel, 4-2-5, against 2 tight ends. And I'm really curious on if, based on the film from this last week, if block destruction up front is not one of their significant strengths. From my understanding, I think their D-line's really good pass rushing, but how good are they against a team that is going to run the ball, tell you where they're going to run the ball, and say, do something about it. If that's not one of their strengths, they're going to, if I were them, I would match personnel for personnel and have 5 defensive linemen out there against 12 or 21 personnel, which you're going to see a lot of. Illinois State was predominantly a 10 and 11 personnel team where they only had 1 tight end out there max. And the few times they go 12 personnel, Oklahoma didn't match. I don't think they can do that against Michigan. I think that'd be very bold to match or to stay in your nickel personnel against 12. So that's one thing I'd look for just as you watch the game on Saturday when you see Michigan go in their heavier packages, whether it's 12, 21, 22, where you start seeing multiple tight ends. You see Max Bredesen out there. I would take Max Bredesen against a nickel defender 10 times out of 10, right, if I'm Michigan. So how they match personnel is my first question. And then from there, can they stop the run without rotating a safety down and basically saying, I dare you to beat us, Bryce? Because, again, that goes back to that dilemma. I mean, that'd be pretty bold. But they might not have a choice. So I'm interested in that matchup just to see, one, do they match personnel for personnel when Michigan goes heavier personnel packages? And then 2, how are they up front against Michigan's run game, truly getting off blocks, not relying on scheme and different stunts, but just man on man? Can they shock, shed, get off blocks, and make the plays?
You know, it is interesting, especially considering just I've spent a lot of the day watching we talked on the phone for 20 minutes. I watched the film guys breakdown of both Bryce Underwood and John Mateer. And just kind of like getting more familiar with Oklahoma here. So I've seen a lot more clips of Oklahoma. I didn't watch the whole game. I just watched bits and pieces here. I yesterday went on the Locked On Amazon show with Gary Patterson, and they asked me to predict, and I didn't have a game prediction. I kind of don't have a game prediction, to be honest. But I said, I think Oklahoma by 1 right now, just because I think there's a little bit more known. But now the more that you say this, the more that I see like what Oklahoma does, what they're capable of versus Michigan, it kind of feels more and more like I'm kind of looking at it kind of more like I kind of feel like Michigan should run away with this. It's maybe not like a massive run away with it. I'm not talking like, Michigan 40, Oklahoma 7, but like I'm starting to feel more confident in what Michigan offers, because you look at it and you say, what did Michigan not do well in week 1? Mostly it was sudden change, right? Like, yeah, quick game, right? Like going up against that quick game, and John Mateer is definitely capable of doing that. But is that their offense? I'm not so sure. And then the sudden change obviously affected Michigan. But then on the other end, Oklahoma was bad at running the football, and they were bad at stopping the run. And that feels like an absolute disaster if you're Oklahoma going into this game. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. With that in mind, Connor, if you want to give a prediction, what do you think is going to happen? And then we'll close out from there.
I don't believe in score predictions. I just break them down and see what happens. So I'm not going to give you a score prediction, but I do agree with you from the standpoint of this has a lot of like Michigan, Ohio State vibes of the clash of identities. And personally, if I were Oklahoma, I would not try to beat Michigan at their own game. I would on defense, I'd match personnel for personnel, do what I can, and say, yeah, beat us in the passing game, which you know how I feel that would go with Bryce at quarterback. But on the other end of the ball, if I'm Oklahoma on offense, I'm going up tempo the whole game. I'm spreading them out, throwing the ball left and right, not trying to mess with the run game, because we all know Michigan's front is legit. And again, that's not to say Oklahoma's it's going to be impossible for them to run the ball. But from an identity standpoint, I think we know what would happen if that's what they try to do.
It's going to be interesting. Well, I will see you down in Norman after you've after you visited Ohio State. Yeah, it's can't wait to break this down with you week by week, my guy. So for Connor Stalions, new to the show, new to my life, I'm Isaiah Hole. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.